Yo, this is Johnny from Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'm going to go over UFC Fight Night Dawson versus Green. I'm going to go over it pretty quickly. I've been under the weather for the last few days. That's why you're getting this out pretty late. But yeah, it's been a pretty shitty few weeks. Went on vacation for my birthday, got sick, came back, felt the wrath of God after traveling, and I'm like, I've been out of it. Plus, my bets for like that previous week, the Fizia versus Gamrot, it was a complicated night. I'll say that it didn't go well for me, in the sense that like I, like many other people, probably still feel a lot of disdain for Cody Brundage, and I kind of feel like I have to get this out. I was pissed, and I mean pissed, so much so that like I was at my mom's house. I had my nephews there, and I let out a loud expletive of rage, so much so that the neighbors turned down their college football to make sure everything was okay. And I'm like, oh man. So kind of felt like an asshole for that. But like I was not happy with Cody Brundage. Not necessarily because of the DQ. Like I've come to terms with the fact that sure it's a DQ, but more so I'm still butthurt over Cody just kind of laying there and just being like, you want to continue? Mark Smith says, and he's like, I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. But I get it. Like, get your money. You're never going to win in the UFC again. I understand. But as a man, I took personal offense to that. But maybe that's why I got so sick. I had a lot of stuff planned for this episode, but I'm like, fuck that shit. I'll do it next week. What's next week? Yusa versus Barboza. That should be pretty fun. But this card, if I'm being honest, the Dawson versus Green card, I don't really see a whole ton of like profit on here. Like I don't really see a whole ton of like spots where I feel confident in. There's a lot of big dogs, or not big dogs, I'm sorry, but big favorites here. Like for example, Drew Dober is one of them, and I'm just like, I don't know if I even feel confident in Drew Dober. And there's a lot of talks about like, oh, let's take I don't know who the fuck is on here, Chris Gutierrez over Montel Jackson. Like there's a lot of danger on this card that I'll kind of give you my thoughts on. I did my research on it, and it is what it is. But let's get started with the first fight of the night, and this gives you an indication of how good of a night it's going to be. We've got Montana De La Rosa versus JJ Aldrich. Now, it's a dead even pick 'em. De La Rosa minus 110, come back on Aldrich minus 110. One would say, why is Montana De La Rosa and JJ Aldrich near even pick 'em? Well, JJ, she was like minus 400 a couple fights ago, and now she's a dead pick 'em. I find that to be a bit odd, mainly because not only did JJ lose to a person that Montana destroyed in, not Macy Barber, in Ariane Lipsky, it's just so funny to me because like the hype around JJ being this uber talented mixed martial artist is kind of dying down, which I'm kind of happy for because there are some good spots to take her, like her last fight, Na Liang. If she would have been better with her money line, I would have taken her. But again, it was like, it's not worth it. And then she got taken down a bunch. I'm like, fuck that. So her value is going down a bit. And I think Montana's very underrated. And I know her record's not great. It's 12-8, but I like her because she's scrappy. She's realistically, she can get by on her looks. And I'm going off into like a psychological thing. She doesn't need to fight. The fact that she goes out there and fights, I'm pretty high on her. She's a very pretty girl. She gets her nose busted a lot, which I am worried here because JJ is technically the better striker. There's a concept in MMA that I've kind of been thinking about recently, like actual using my brain and my degree and bullshit that I got. Why is it that certain fighters can beat better strikers? Because I've come up with this theory of effective striking opposed to competent striking. Like you might see a world class striker, and let's just say, who's a very good striker? Let's go Jose Aldo. He's very technical with a lot of the shit that he does, but you might get a guy that is effective at like just throwing volume, and although he might not be pretty, it is effective. Ngannou's a perfect example. Just throws, connects, effective. That's all that matters, really, as long as it's effective. And I think Montana's very effective with her style. She's very gritty. She goes after girls. She's a tough girl. She was really tough to take down against her last loss, which was Tatiana Suarez. Then again, that was Tatiana coming back. I do like Montana, and I'm pretty biased. I'll be honest. I like Montana. I want her to win. I don't think JJ is. If I'm being honest, I think JJ is a very competent fighter, especially with these lower level ladies. It's a very close fight, but I'm just going with a biased pick. I'm going to go with Montana De La Rosa. I think she finds a way to win here. I think she's very sneaky. I think her jiu-jitsu is very good. She's just an overall tough girl, and if she can implement a good grinding style and get JJ down, and some might say, well, the queen of the division, soon to be in not Lipsky, Aaron Blanchfield couldn't really take her down. It doesn't really matter. It's just more so the opportunity. Like Montana's a bit taller. She's 5'7". She's just very good at like getting in on you, maybe taking your back. She's just kind of crafty in that sense. So I'm going to go with Montana De La Rosa because she's the hotter one of the two. Let's just be honest. Like, why am I even talking? I'm going with Montana because she's prettier, and she is the better of the De La Rosas in that family. Moving on, we've got a fight actually that now that I kind of spoke too soon, I am interested in this fight. We've got Nate Maness versus Mateus Mendonca. Mayhem versus Bacoa. Minus 270 on Mendonca is ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. He's 24 years old. He's fighting at the Shooter Box Diego Lima. And I think that is what's giving him that boost in that price. I like Nate Maness here. And I'll give you some reasonings why. And I'll give you the dangers why. He's at 125. I think it's kind of tough because he hasn't looked great at 125. He came into the UFC at 135, looked good, knocked out some good guys, beat some good guys. But at 125, he kind of got fed to the Daggy Nation. He got beat by Umar, but he got decision, and then Tajir submitted him pretty quickly in the first round. But he's a tall guy, good boxing. He's a tough guy. He's a very, very tough fighter. And the fact that he's still going back down to 125, it's like this guy really wants to win at 125. He wants to prove a point. So I do like Nate Maness in this spot, especially at the plus 220. Do I think, like, here's my predicament with him. Do I truly believe he's going to win this fight? I do feel like he's got a very good chance to beat Mendonca, and I'll give you the reasons why and why I don't really like Mendonca at this very moment from what I've seen. There's always room for improvement, but from what I've seen from Mendonca, it's just a lot of issues. But with Nate Maness, I know he's going to have the boxing advantage. I think he selects his shots better. He's more crisp. He can get clipped, though. That's what I do worry about, especially training his body a bit more. Mendonca does throw a lot of power. I think his takedown defense is going to hold up. He has pretty solid takedown defense overall, especially with people who aren't Dagestani Muslims. So that's a plus, right? He's not fighting a Dagestani anymore. So that's a really good plus. So I do think right now we're going to see the better version of Nate Maness, but my biggest issue is if he gets hit once clean by Mateus, that could be it, right? Those 10 pounds of water weight in his brain, it may not bode well for him. But for Mendonca, I just don't believe in that price line. I don't think he's worthy of that. I think it's a lot of, Charles Oliveira, Willie Catch, all those people kind of boosting up that line. And I get it, right? The guy's only 24 years old, but when I see him fight, he makes a lot of stupid mistakes. So I wrote my notes on him. I think I spent quite a bit of time on his notes because I do think he obviously comes from a great team. He's a powerful guy. He is very well rounded in the sense that he can go for leg locks. He can go for takedowns. His striking, although it is not pretty, as I mentioned earlier with like Montana, I think it's effective in the sense that if he lands a stupid looking punch, it can crack somebody. I think he does have that kind of power. My issues is that he throws a lot of unnecessary strikes, spinning back kicks and such. Like a lot of techniques that, although are pretty and cool, they aren't necessary. Dude, just stick to a simple 1-2 jab, go for a takedown. Don't go spinning back kicks and shit. Like, don't do that shit. Your gas tank's going to suffer. I think Nate has a better gas tank. Although, I do think that if Mendonca can adjust those small things, he can look nearly minus 300. I just don't particularly trust him. Like when I see him fight, this goes back to the regionals. I think he kind of gets goaded into fighting the style that he knows, proper game plan. Like he does go for takedowns. He has good top control and good submissions and all. And I've mentioned that power. It's just, again, that if Nate Maness pops him with a few jabs, I do see Mendonca trying to get it back and swinging a bit wild. And I do see a good spot here where Nate Maness can come out here as a pretty decent-sized dog and not only possibly finish Mendonca late, but clearly win a decision. So I will go with Nate Maness. I think he can – it's clear to me that I think he's cleaner to win a decision because Mendonca's never been finished. But I think if he can tire out Mendonca in the third round, just kind of avoid the big shots, tire him out with takedown defense, and actually maybe even going for takedowns of his own, As long as his gas tank holds up at 125, meaning that there's no issues on the scale, I am willing to take a shot. I don't really see the line moving on Nate Maness a whole ton. I don't think a lot of people are going to take him. I'm going to wait. I might take him now a little, and then depending on how he looks on the scales, I might actually bet a bit more on him. But I'm going to go with Nate Maness, third round TKO. Moving on, we've got the return of Kanako Maruta versus Vanessa Demopolous, Lil Monster. A minus 300 on Murata is a little suspicious to me, but after watching tape, I think it's justified skill for skill, but given the environment around the whole thing, Vanessa's been more active. She's fought, I don't want to say the better competition, but she's fought better competition as of late, compared to, your training partners or whatever. But I did see that Murata did get her like jaw busted up recently, like lost some teeth. Bitch is tough, man. The bitch is very tough. The fact that she's coming back after, I believe it was a shoulder injury or arm break against Jandiroba, that was a very impressive performance for Murata. And I like to look into little details about like a fighter psychology. I'll give you my thoughts on Murata, why I think she's a very tough fighter. She got caught in an armbar against Jandiroba, who was much bigger than her. She got bullied in that cage, but she didn't give up. She didn't want to give up. She didn't want to stop fighting. When she got out of the armbar, she had pretty good top control at one point and started landing some good shots on her from top, but she couldn't really do much against her. But that one moment that I saw is where she started crying after the doctor stopped at TKO after her shoulder injury. Started fucking crying. Like she knew she couldn't fight, like deep down, but she still cried like a little bitch because she wanted to fight, even with a busted arm. So I felt that. I'm like, damn, like she's a tough girl. Fucking lawnmower or something going on in the background. So whatever. Demopolous, on the other hand, she's another girl who I've never really had a whole ton of respect for until recently, but she's a scrapper though. She's 35 years old. She honestly should not be fighting. She's been going up and down in weight, but 115 I think is a better spot for her. This is one of the few times she's going to actually have a height advantage, not necessarily a reach advantage. She's still like 3.5 inches in reach here at a disadvantage, but she's a plus 240 dog. Now, is there a chance Demopolous wins this fight? Absolutely, right? Like, I think she pulls off a lot of slick submissions off of her back. Like, I don't know if she's going to have the wrestling to really do much to get it to the ground. Murata's a very good wrestler, also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I do think Murata wins this fight by a decision because Demopolous, even if you're pounding her brains in, like, she is a tough girl. She used to pole dance. So I like to come up with this theory of, like, maybe she used to get her ass beat back in, like, the back alleys. Where is she from? Vegas? Yeah, she used to get her ass beat in the back alleys of shitty Vegas strip clubs. That's where she got her tough chin. So I'll go with Murata by a decision. I respect Demopolous, but I do think skill for skill here, Murata has her beat. I mean, takedown after takedown, I think she's going to be able to exploit really a takedown defense and the willingness of Demopolous to be on her back. And then I think Murata is going to be able to just avoid any submissions and just lay in the ground and pound. Demopolous does slow down. I know she's in fight ready. I just don't see her really winning this fight. But then again, I don't feel confident enough to take a shot on Murata. She's been away for like 2 years. So if Murata comes in here intelligently, I'll say she should win this one. Look, minus 300, no problem. But if she comes in here and decides she wants to clinch up and strike, there's going to be a chance for Demopolous to possibly outstrike her. I think Demopolous' striking has gotten a little bit better. She's got some good pop in her punches. And yeah, we'll see. But I'll go with Murata by a decision. But again, like, I'm not interested in betting this fight. Moving on, Johnny Munoz Jr., Kid Kvenbo versus Mongolian murderer Arichi Lang. Johnny Munoz minus 105. Mongolian murderer minus 115. So one might be asking themselves, well, why is this a line super close? Had Arichi Lang not been knocked the fuck out in his last fight by a Canadian, very embarrassing, by the way, he would be like Murata minus 300. Like, Johnny Munoz looked very bad in his last fight against Daniel Willie Catch. But to consider a couple things, like, he did get punted in the dick, although, it is what it is. He didn't look great in that fight. He looked exhausted. It almost looked like getting kicked in the dick really affected him. Now, even if that wasn't the case, say he got punted in the cock and it didn't affect him as much as what I think it did, he still fought Willie Cat Santos, who would have destroyed and will destroy, possibly at one point, Mongolian murderer if they ever match him up. Say he beats Johnny Munoz. I wouldn't mind seeing Willie Catch beat the shit out of Arichi Lang. Arichi Lang, to me, he did have a lot of hype when he moved down to bantamweight, or actually moved up to bantamweight. He was at 125. He's a big dude. He's going to be the smaller guy here. I like Johnny Munoz in this spot because, well, not to say in his spot, I don't really like his price tag. I really would have wished he would have been like plus 120 or even money. But I think Johnny Munoz is a guy that, like, he's got the jiu-jitsu in the back pocket. He's pretty solid, man. He had Willie Cat not necessarily in trouble, but he made Willie Cat react like, oh shit, he nearly caught me in a triangle. Better do something about this. I think if Arichi Lang gets caught in anything, it's a wrap because Johnny's got good jujitsu. His boxing's getting better. I don't particularly trust his overall toughness, but the guy is tough, right? Like when I say that is as long as he's conscious, he'll continue to fight. But if he gets put out, then he gets put out. I think there's going to be a lot of spots where Johnny Munoz will exploit the kind of aggressiveness of Arichi Lang, maybe naked kicks, try to take him down. To me, I think Munoz can defend punches long enough until he can get a takedown, opposed to Arichi Lang defending takedowns until he can tire out Johnny. I think eventually Johnny will get a takedown and do a lot of damage on top, possibly get a submission. So I'm going to go with Johnny Munoz. I'm going to say second round submission, more than likely a rear naked choke or possibly even a guillotine. Like Johnny's solid. He's getting better. It's just that I don't think he's living up to not necessarily the hype around him, but when he came into the UFC, he was undefeated. He fought Nate Maness. He took him the fuck down often. It's just that like we needed to see more, and he's kind of been on a win-loss situation. I think he gets back on track here. He's going to be the bigger dude, longer reach. He's shown improvement in his boxing. I like his lisp. He has my name. A little biased. So I'll go with Johnny Munoz to win. Not that my name is Munoz, just that my name is Johnny, if you haven't noticed. Moving on. Chris Gutierrez versus Montel Jackson at bantamweight. It's crazy to think that Johnny Munoz and Montel Jackson are in the same weight class because they seem like completely worlds apart. Chris Gutierrez plus 160 comeback on Jackson is minus 190. Now, Jackson to me is like an anomaly. The guy is incredibly talented, quick hands, knockout power, good wrestling, lazy as fuck though. He gets very complacent in the cage, doesn't really throw too often. Chris Gutierrez, great leg kicks, good boxing, good head movement, good cardio, trains out a good team out in elevation. I'll be quick with it. I'm going to go with Gutierrez. I've seen a lot of people take him already, and it's not me jumping on that bandwagon. It's just that, like, I think Montel Jackson has struggles with good strikers, and Chris Gutierrez is a very competent striker, and especially a good volume striker, a good defensive striker as well. Montel doesn't really throw a whole ton of kicks. He's also capable of getting taken down himself. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, and in that 4-fight winning streak, I think he only fought one competent fighter, and that's Julio Arce. And although he won on every scorecard, I thought Julio put up a very good, very, very good performance to the point that I'm like, maybe Julio could steal this, right? Like, not the third round. He got kind of dominated there. But Julio, to me, reminds me of very similar to Chris Gutierrez, just, high-level kickboxer. The inside leg kick, Montel lefty, Chris Gutierrez orthodox, be able to kick that lead leg. He's going to have to avoid the straight punches from Montel Jackson, but I think with that head movement, is great movement against the cage, I think he can get it done. I know Gutierrez, some might say that he got dominated by Pedro Munoz. I think it was 30-27 on all, if not most of the scorecards. I thought Pedro slowed down a bit, and I thought Chris Gutierrez actually ended up winning 2 rounds. He lost the first one. So I thought Chris came back and won, but because the rounds were so close, it is what it is, I was there live, so I might have kind of imagined shit, perhaps. I'm not going to die on that hill, but I did at one point think Chris won that fight against Pedro Munoz. So I kind of get why he's the underdog here. He's another underdog that I might consider playing, but I'm not quite certain yet. I do want to see the height difference because they're listed at 1 inch apart in height. That reach advantage for Montel Jackson would be a concerning issue if Montel threw more volume, but his 75.5-inch reach compared to the 67 of Chris Gutierrez, it's like, I think Chris can kind of dodge those punches pretty well. I mean, beautiful footwork outside the cage when he starts throwing those kicks. As long as Chris isn't overconfident, which I think it was his issue his last fight, I think he finds a way to decision the shit out of Montel Jackson, or at least make it close enough to me putting money on him. Doesn't seem like I'm a complete fucking idiot. So I'll go with Chris Gutierrez by a decision. If Montel comes out here and just blasts something, oh, it happened. Montel does his thing. But I do worry about Montel, man. Like, he's got a lot of potential. It's just, again, he doesn't seem to care. He goes out there and beats Ronnie Yaya, but I thought he should have beaten him a lot sooner than he did. It just is what it is with Montel. Either finishes you or he makes it close. And I think he's not going to finish Chris, so it's going to be a closer fight where even if Montel wins the fight, vision wise, I think Chris could still get two of the scorecards in a split. Next bout, strawweight bout, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Diana Belbita. Now, immediately I'm like, Belbita, take Belbita. She's plus 165 compared to the minus 190. It's literally the opposite of the last fight. She's bigger, she's younger, bigger, longer reach. I'm like, what's not to like about Belbita? Like, she'll make a great Slavic wife one day, Romanian, I suppose. But I kind of looked into her fight again because, like, I did have money in her last fight against Oliveira, the Spider Girl, and I thought she did enough to win a clear decision. Then again, I had money on her, so of course I thought that. It was a lot closer. I thought she looked good for that level of competition, but it was still not good for, actual competition. Karolina, say what you will about her, like, she's 37 years old. She will be the older woman here, opposed to her breasts, which are younger. Fantastic, by the way. Good for you, Karolina. Now she's got two things to look at. Like, I used to just stare at her eyes. Now I have other things to look at. That way I don't feel like a creep. But Diana Belbita, my issue with her is that, like, she looks very awkward. She almost seems like she's too tall for the division, even though I don't think she is. But the way she fights is very awkward. She's a scrappy girl. I like that about Diana. And I think if she can land a good strike, and I mean, like, a perfectly placed head kick or an uppercut, she can crack Karolina and hurt her. Carolina's been finished a lot of the times, like, going back, like, she's on a 3-fight win streak, which I'm happy for, but I am kind of expecting that dip again. Like, what's going on with Karolina? Did the titties give her new magical powers? I'm all for it. I just need to know. I don't know yet. But skill for skill, Karolina is the much better fighter on the mat. Striking wise, if she gets in a clinch, good knees to the body, as we know. Just overall crisper puncher. Diana, she'll throw a lot, but she's kind of goofy on the feet. She's very awkward. And she's supposed to be this Muay Thai champion or kickboxing champion. Again, there's a lot of danger in this fight, but for me, I think Karolina wins this fight. I might consider the decision. And I say that knowing that in the beginning of the video, I said, I don't really see a whole ton of value here. I'm a degenerate. I'm going to bet on some shit. I just bet on the New York Giants to beat the Seahawks. I don't know really shit about football. I'll still do it. So that's kind of where I'm at in this card. Hopefully I don't make anything too stupid, but Karolina by decision, I think, is going to be the play. I think, with her length, if she gets taken down, the risk of a rear naked choke, it really won't be there. I think Deanna's strong enough. It's just more so the control time from Karolina. Getting a 4-fight winning streak is more important to her, I suppose, than getting an actual finish. And she hasn't gotten a finish in a while, other than Felice Herrig, who is not 27 years old. So moving on, Bill Algeo versus Alexander Hernandez, main card, 145. Now, I like Alex Hernandez, but 145 Alex Hernandez is dickless Hernandez. That's his words, not mine. He said his dick didn't work at 145, and now he's at 145 again. He said he wanted to go down at 145. He looked interesting at 155 again against Jim Miller, but he's plus 120 here against Bill Algeo. Why is he not a bigger dog is my question, and there's a lot of reason for that. Bill Algeo, he's a tough guy. I like Bill Algeo. I like his nickname, Senior Perfecto, minus 140, but he's 34 years old. He's kind of clunky on the feet, but he's effective. He throws some shit. He can hurt guys. Good cardio, great jiu-jitsu. Like, when he gets on top of you, man, the way he got that rear naked choke on that Alabaman, Arkansas, TJ Brown, it was impressive. Like, he's very good. He's very, very good. But I do worry about him being able to get beaten by guys like Alexander Hernandez. Like, we've got kind of polar opposites here. We've got a freak athlete in Alexander Hernandez, now nicknamed the Great Ape, against Senior Perfecto, kind of a goofy guy. not an athlete, but he can throw interesting techniques, spinning back kicks and such. He strikes with his hands down a bit. He's got a long body, long reach, 1 inch reach advantage over Alex Hernandez, who is significantly shorter, 6 foot for Bill, 5'9" for Hernandez. Now, I like to think, what are the ways Alexander Hernandez can win this fight? Now, Bill Algeo is not really a guy who gets knocked out or really hurt too much on the feet, but doesn't excuse him from getting knocked out. Alex Hernandez has been finished a lot. His biggest issue is not particularly the cardio. I really don't know if it's truly a cardio issue or a mental issue. And I think he's discussed this in the past, that like, my body seems fine, but my brain tells me pack it in. Like, he's kind of alluded to that he just kind of has a mental break. And in that fight against Jim Miller, there were some moments there that not only myself, but I think a lot of people saw this is where Alexander Hernandez breaks, because we saw the pressure from Jim Miller. And then Alex stayed composed. He's like, don't too much. I think Alex's issue is that he kind of goes too hard sometimes. Like, he's very effective on the outside against Jim, landing a really good knee to the body, kind of like a lead step up knee to the body, which I found to be impressive. Like, damn, that's solid. He's going to sap the gas tank from the veteran in Jim, which it did. He busted him up a bit, and then Jim kind of bum rushes him at one point, kind of seemingly hurts him. But I think Alex stayed composed. So I think he has mentioned that he's seeing a sports psychologist. So I think that's going to benefit him well. And I think the way he wins this fight is by attacking the body of Bill Algeo. He's got that step in knee. He's the guy who essentially is going to more than likely initiate the takedowns. Bill Algeo can and more than likely will get a takedown on Alex, but I think Alex will pop back up. That would be wise for Bill to do. Kind of get him against the cage, knee him to the body. Don't try to really strike with him. Just push him up, bully him. You're the bigger guy here. But if Alex shows to be the stronger guy between the two, and Alex just kind of muscles him down, Alex can do some good work there. If he feels as if he cannot control Bill Algeo, keep it on the feet a little bit more. Tire him out. Bill doesn't necessarily get tired, but doesn't excuse him from getting his body battered. Attack the body. Watch out for the knees. And I think Alexander can find a way to win this fight, either by decision or possibly knocking out Bill Algeo. But realistically, though, it is Bill Algeo's fight to lose. He should win this fight. Given the type of fighter, right, that Bill Algeo is, it is the perfect type of fighter to beat Alex Hernandez, especially knowing that Alex is dropping back down. Doesn't really have the best record at featherweight, and by that I mean what's the opposite of undefeated? He's unwinned. He didn't win any. He's a fucking loser at featherweight. So it just depends, man. Like, I do see a way Alex can win this fight. So I do think this is a very good live betting situation, right? I am considering either taking Alex right now, again, the degenerate in me, at plus money, and then waiting, because we know if you're going to bet Bill Algeo, I don't predict him just going out there and just beating the shit out of Alex early and then climbing up to, like, at one point minus 600, and then you see a finish. No, I think this gets into the second round, where I think at that point Alex will slow down or show issues that he's no longer willing to compete at this level at featherweight. So at that point, if I can get Bill Algeo at plus money, maybe plus even money, I'll take Bill Algeo at even money. If it's closely contested, where Alexander's just a little too quick for him in that first round, he's getting takedowns. That's kind of where I'm leaning. So I'm really split on this one, because I do see a good chance that Alex can win this fight if he can keep his shit under control. If he's kind of not necessarily mastered, I don't know if he should stay at 145, but if he's found a way to get down to 145 where he can, achieve an erection, that's what I need to hear for me to feel like, okay, he might win this fight. But until then, I'm going to stick with Bill to win this one by second round. I don't know if he'll get a submission. I'll go TKO in the second round. He can get on top of Hernandez. It's probably a wrap. But again, I'm keeping an eye on this one. This is, to me, one of the more intriguing fights of the card. Moving on, Felipe Lins versus Ian Cutelaba. Cutelaba, am I right, fellas? He's a handsome man. Ian Cutelaba, minus 150. Come back on. Felipe Lins is plus 125. Now, very similar to the Bill Algeo fight versus Alexander Hernandez. I like Ion Cutelaba first round knockout. I'm just going to stick with that. Just I don't want to get into too much detail, but live betting opportunities for Felipe Lins, right? Felipe, he's 38 years old. He's nearly a decade older than Cutelaba. It's just that he has shown better cardio. He's in a good shape now that he's not in heavyweight. He looks like a completely different guy now with the lettuce on top and the six pack. It's just that I don't feel comfortable betting Felipe Lins to win, like, not quite yet. Again, I'd rather take him when he's a bigger dog. If you plus 200, I'd be all over it, right? We know Kutalaba's issues. He does slow down. I just think that as of late, he's not fighting the monsters anymore of the division. Like, go back, Ryan Spann, giant man, Johnny Walker, Shadow Night Stalker, Kennedy and Zetriku. He's a big African. So they're all big dudes that I think Hulk had a lot of issues with because of the reach, the power behind the punches, the ability to finish from each guy. And he's not fighting these guys anymore. He's fighting guys his size where he can land punches, hurt them, and even use his wrestling, right? People kind of forget that Ion has good wrestling. It's just that he gets tired. I don't really think it's because he wrestles too much. I think it's because he blows his wad. If he goes out there strictly to wrestle, he will be the better wrestler in this case. I think he can kind of dominate Felipe Lins on the ground long enough to land some good punches. Felipe's got a good cardio himself right now. He can get back up, but over time, if Cutelaba's just like keep rinse and repeat, take him down, I think he can do that. But he does need to finish the fight. I think his best option to win is to not give Felipe Lins a chance to go after him if he starts to slow down, even if it's by a small amount. So I think first round Cutelaba would be wise to take. I think he'll go out there, land hands on Felipe Lins, who's been knocked out before by a guy who MMA Mass says should not have beat him. Tanner Boser knocked out Lins. Cutelaba knocks out Boser. Felipe Lins gets knocked out in the first round by Ion Cutelaba. So another fight, kind of keep an eye on for live betting. If Cutelaba does not get the knockout and he looks like absolute shit up until, like, say, the last few minutes of the round, where Cutelaba might have hurt Felipe Lins, but he didn't finish him, I'll take Felipe Lins at that plus 200 if it gets there. So I'll go with Cutelaba round number one. I think, he's going to be the younger guy. I think if he lands on Cutelaba, if Cutelaba lands on him, it's going to be more devastating than if Lins lands on Cutelaba. I don't think it's that simple that, like, you land on Cutelaba once and he gets knocked out. It's just he gets tired and then he gets knocked out. Next bout, Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn. Drew Dober minus 470. I think that's ridiculous. Ricky Glenn plus 365. Glenn is a tough guy just because he got knocked out by Christos Giagos with like a very good punch / slightly early stoppage, just slightly a little bit. I think Ricky could have continued after he kind of woke up on the mat. Ricky's a tough guy. I think Dober wins this one by a decision. I don't think Dober's going to look minus 470. I think this fight could go either way. I think Ricky Glenn has good boxing. He's got the longer reach by half an inch, but I don't truly buy that. I think his reach is longer, right? He's 6 foot tall. He's going to have the leg reach advantage. He can wrestle himself. He can grapple. It's just more so the leg kicks of Drew Dober. He's going to be the much faster guy. There's more of a likelihood of him knocking out Ricky than, I guess, Ricky knocking out Drew, even though Drew just got knocked out recently. Again, you can say it was an early stoppage, but it is what it is, right? Like, just because Drew Dober has the Giga Chad chin doesn't mean he can't get knocked out. And I think there's a good chance Ricky could win here. I don't see why not. Just throw maybe $20 on Ricky Glenn. Why the fuck not? I might do that. But I'm going to pick Drew Dober. If Drew Dober comes out here intelligent, doesn't come out here to bang, uses some grappling of his own, attack the legs, obviously, hit the body of Ricky Glenn. Because anytime I think of a short, stocky guy like Drew Dober fighting a taller guy like Ricky Glenn, good boxing, just ripped to the fucking body. So I'll go with Drew Dober. I think this might be a fantastic fight. This could be quite possibly a fight of the year contender. If what I think is true, both these guys are tough. And if I do believe that Ricky Glenn knockout was kind of a fluke, where if they fight again, Ricky fucking runs a train on Christos, I think Ricky and Drew Dober are going to put on a fantastic show. So I'll go with Drew to win a decision here. Next bout, Alex Morono versus Joaquin Buckley. Buckley minus 200, Morono plus 165. And I find it so funny that this happens all the fucking time. Big black dude versus Alex Morono. Last time it happened, Alex got knocked out by Chaos Williams, right? But with Joaquin Buckley, he doesn't have the chin of Chaos, right? He's gonna have the reach advantage. He's gonna be the shorter guy here. I don't like this fight. I do think Morono has a good chance here, but there's so much danger in this fight, right? Morono throws a lot of loopy punches. I think he's the better overall fighter on paper. Buckley's just strong, athletic, and that really can cover a lot of distance when it comes to like the actual technique. I think Morono has better technique overall, especially when it comes to like his grappling, that sneaky ass guillotine that he gets. Buckley, though, just being faster and stronger, can really like, oh, fuck your black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'll just hit you in the face because I can. So I worry so much about this fight. I think it doesn't go the distance would be wise. Morono's been KO'd plenty of times, but the guy is just so funky on there in the cage that if Buckley feels a bit tentative, he's going to potentially kind of bum rush him, which is what I love about Buckley. He goes out there and just headhunts, goes to the body well. I don't know. It's a tough fight. They're kind of the polar opposites, right? We've got, New Mansa, Joaquin Buckley, a black dude from St. Louis, nickname after an African. And we've got Alex Morono, who on his off time likes to, I guess, go to punk rock parties and salute a certain somebody that will remain unnamed. But if you're a history buff, around 1942-ish, you would understand who I'm talking about. His nickname kind of alludes to it with the Great White. The Great White what, Alex? The Shark or the Supreme Leader? I don't know, Alex Morono. I'm going to go with Alex Morono by TKO. I'm going to say round number 2. I think Buckley, I'm just kind of pulling that out of my ass. I do think this is a lot closer. Because of that, I'll go with the dog. I'll go with Alex Morono, round number 2 TKO. Obviously would not be shocked if Buckley comes out here and knocks him out early. The only way I would be shocked of an outcome is if Buckley submits Alex Morono. I'd be like, oh, shit. Okay. I didn't see that coming. But yeah, I think Morono's got a good chance here. Like his awkward movement on the feet, the way he throws his looping punches. Buckley's chin, I'm not too sold on, especially dropping to 170, even though it looked good against Fiallo. But again, Fiallo's been... Put it to you this way. Fiallo lost to the Dirty Bird. Morono beat the Dirty Bird. Joaquin Buckley kind of had a little bit of issue with Fiallo. I think Morono would beat Fiallo as well. I don't think Buckley would beat Dirty Bird Means. I think Dirty Bird would probably knock him out, even given the age difference. So I'll go with Morono, kind of using my stupid logic there. Again, not convicted in any of these picks. I think they're a lot closer. And when I see that line, I'm like, I think it should kind of be closer to a pick'em. Maybe Morono minus 130, minus 120, plus 120. And then Buckley, I would be fine with him like minus 150, but nearly 2-1. I don't see that. Next bout, co-main event, Joe Pyfer versus Abdulrazak Al Hassan. Safe to say this fight is not going the distance. I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer, round number 2 knockout. The reason round number 2, I don't see a way Abdulrazak Al Hassan wins this fight without getting a knockout. And the way Joe Pyfer's been fighting lately, he's been pretty smart. He's 11-2 compared to the 12-5 of Abdul. He's going to be the shorter guy here, Abdul, although he's a meaty underdog, plus 300. And he's knocked out a lot of good guys, especially some dudes that you don't see coming. I just think Joe Pyfer, if he fights smart, he's going to stay on the outside, kind of pop Abdulrazak with clean jabs and punches, avoiding anything significant from Abdul. Abdul, if he tries to take down Joe Pyfer, I don't really see him having a whole ton of success with Joe Pyfer's jiu-jitsu background. He's a solid grappler himself. If Abdul, say, just bum rushes Joe Pyfer, I just think Joe's too smart of a fighter. Not to say he can't get knocked out, right? Like this is always the risk in MMA because the plus 300s can do practically anything sometimes, especially in these fights where Joe Pyfer, honestly, not truly tested quite yet. He's kind of had it moderately easy. He beat Gerald Meerschaert, but he's got a good style to beat Gerald. Alan Amadovsky, come on now. Those are his two fights in the UFC. This is a much tougher fight, but it's very much suited for him to win. Obviously, they're trying to give him a good name on his record, and I think he's going to get that record win. So I'll go with Body Bags to beat Judo Thunder here in the second round. I think he's going to be intelligent. He's not going to play any sort of like tit for tat kind of games. And I think he finds the chin of Abdul or possibly takes him down and just batters him. Because I think the more you wear on Abdul Razak Al Hassan's gas tank, the less dangerous he's going to become. And I've just seen it way too often. But the guy is super surprising, even at 38 years old. He can pull off some magical stuff. So I'll still go with Joe Pye for second round TKO. Now, the main event of the evening, I'll be completely honest, I'm not incredibly enthralled by this matchup, right? Like, I don't understand it. I think Grant Dawson should have a not a better opponent. I'm not going to say that. A different opponent. I think someone probably higher ranked. Like, I get it. Grant Dawson, he's number 10. He's fighting Bobby Green. He's trying to stay active, but Bobby Green is a dangerous guy to fight, especially in a 5-round fight. Given the fact that Bobby Green, I think, is getting a little disrespected here. He's plus 280. Now, do I disagree with it? Not completely. I get the reason why the line is the way it is, but minus 400 basically for Grant Dawson, I do not see it, especially at a 5-round fight. Now, I'll leave it this real simple. I think Grant Dawson in a 3-round fight, easy fucking money. I think he beats Bobby Green. Like, Bobby, he's a tough guy, but 2 rounds, just lose 2 rounds and Bobby Green goes away. Or not that, I'm sorry, beat him, win 2 rounds, and then Bobby Green goes away. You don't have to deal with Bobby Green anymore. Just worry about like that 1 round where you can't take him down. Bobby Green, great boxer, fucking beautiful hood style. Talk shit to you, moves his head well. It's just that he's getting older and he's just not particularly the same guy he was, but he's still very skilled. It's just that you got to catch Grant Dawson early. And I think Grant Dawson at ATT, he's getting better and he's learning how to use his skill set. I think his striking is getting better. Moicano's even said it, like, he's not the best striker. What I like about Moicano's YouTube channel, he's very honest. Like, he's very biased, but he's like, he's not the best striker, but this guy's a very, very good grappler. And he's not going to throw that shit around. And it's true, Grant is a very solid grappler when he gets you down. When he can't get you down, it gets a little ugly in there. So if Bobby can keep it on the feet, he's going to have a decent chance to hurt Grant Dawson on the feet, just kind of bust him up. That's why I see a lot of danger with Bobby Green. So that's why I'm not I'm not betting this fight. Realistically, though, Grant Dawson takes him down, takes his back. You don't have to finish him. Just continue doing what you do. And he wins the fight. I think he can win a decision, if not even possibly finish Bobby Green. It's just that because it's a 5-round fight, Grant Dawson's cardio is suspect as hell to me. Like, I've seen this guy lose a 3rd round so bad that it became a draw. That's his one draw with Ricky Glenn, where he got basically choked out, and it became a 10-8 and became a draw. And now he has 2 more extra rounds. So that's 3 rounds to lose this fight, which scares the hell out of me. He has 2 rounds to win it and 3 to fuck it up, which is why I'm so concerned about it. I'm going to pick Dawson to win by a decision just because I do think he can get those rounds. I think he can push forward. I think Bobby, at this point in his career, he's 37, although I do think he's super capable of beating Grant Dawson. It's not just the grappling he has to worry about. Grant Dawson, he can hurt Bobby Green, right? I think Bobby's been dropped a couple times where I didn't expect him to get dropped. He's been knocked out recently as well. His chin isn't the same. He's not as fast. And in certain exchanges where he's dipping his head, Grant can probably crack him with a knee. Like, call it what you will. I like calling it the Kraus knee, the jump knee up the middle, like kind of the gauge distance. And if he can catch him with one of those, I think it's going to be like, oh, fuck. Like, not only is Bobby Green done type of conversation, but Grant Dawson's like, oh, my God, get him a title. where I don't really see it that way. I think Grant Dawson can take advantage of certain spots and look good, but he can also look really bad, which I'm really worried about. I'm going to take Dawson by a decision. That's out of respect for Bobby Green because I think Bobby can get the job done. It's just like I do worry that if he gets taken down or he gets hurt, it could look bad for him, right? Like his takedown defense looked pretty solid even against Islam Makhachev, and Grant ain't no Islam. It's just that Grant, even when he's fatigued, he'll continue to go for it because that's his only option sometimes. Like go for the legs, and that's what makes Grant really dangerous, especially if he's still breathing and he's still conscious. He'll continue to go after you relentlessly until he gets a takedown, and whether that means controlling you against the cage or actually getting a takedown, I think Grant Dawson kind of has a style that certain judges find appealing, or not appealing, but easy to score because, well, Bobby Green's hitting him to the body constantly with knees, but Grant's pushing him forward against the cage. So that counts for something, right? I've seen that shit. Like even in his fight with, what's his name? Is it here? Santos. Like I thought Santos was winning that fight because he couldn't get him down. And then it turns out he was winning the whole time. I'm like, okay, whatever. So shit like that. Like certain times judges like the push opposed to the actual striking, if you know what I mean. Like I'll die on that hill. I have trauma with it when judging fights, but I'll go with Grant Dawson to win by a decision. But yeah, nothing official yet when it comes to like plays for me. I'm still kind of on the fence, right? I've been playing a lot of NFL recently. Like yesterday, I had a winning parlay where not the Giants, the Kansas City Chiefs nearly cost me. Like again, I don't really do football, but like, hey, I won money. Kind of what happened to me. Yeah, man, like I lost some money over what was it called? Risen. I bet Top Noy he lost. I actually woke up to watch that fight. Top Noy, the chain smoker who fought in the road to UFC. I thought he won the fight, but literally I'm thinking at like 4 a.m. I'm like, oh fuck. Japanese judges and they're like goofy ass way to judge fights. I'm like, I probably lost, which I did. I ended up making some of that money that I lost on that cocksucker. Oh my god, Cody Brundage. I made it back with like a little bit of Johnny Eblin in Bellator and some other shit. I don't really remember, but like luckily got back to where I was. I didn't lose a whole ton that weekend, but enough to like kind of piss me off. Forgot to track them, so if you follow me tracking my bets, just consider those nights a loss completely. But yeah, I'm excited for Yusuf versus Barboza because Barboza's been looking juicy. We'll see what happens that one. But Christian Rodriguez versus Cameron Simon. That's going to be a fun fight. Anyways, I'll catch you next week.